Hi, y'all, and welcome along to Wellness from Within. Graham Robinson with you, and I'm going to talk about the subject that I like to work in, which is in the area of inner child health. And I work with men predominantly, but really with anybody who is suffering from inner child trauma from early childhood abuse. And I work in that sense with hypnotherapy, but also from my own lived experience and understand what they may be going through. Today, I'd like to talk about the inner child because many people don't, when you say inner child, they look at you like, what do you mean? And unless you've experienced the work around healing the inner child, you don't quite understand the trauma that the child carries and how it impacts you as an adult. And I didn't up until about 5 to 10 years ago when I first started writing my book. A memoir. I had no idea. I'd never heard of the inner child trauma or wounded inner child or any of that. And it all seemed quite strange to me when I first started. And then as I read and studied more about the inner child, I could reflect on the instances that happened to me as I was growing up. I always thought not only the child abuse, but as an adult, as a young adult, and then as older, I saw the moments of rage that came from nowhere. I saw the inability to connect with people, the fact that relationships were difficult. All of these things suddenly, I had a reason for them having happened. It was because of the damage to my inner child. Now, if a child's bullied and has trauma, there are, of course, all levels of that sort of trauma. There are the extremes, and there are also many variations, but still can have an impact on you as an adult. So, for example, if a child is told by a parent, "You're not going to wear that top out, are you? That looks terrible." That child, depending on their own makeup, can take that on board and live with that for the rest of their life and always attempt to change the way they look or always fear the way they look when they go out. The other thing is, of course, through generations, kids were told things like, don't speak, the adults are speaking. Now, if that's said to a child enough, they then take on board this feeling of that they don't belong or they can't speak when they need to. And that becomes an internal problem for them and will change them as an adult. Um, so, for example, if you find yourself in a group of people, work, friends, whatever, and they're discussing something, and you find that you want to contribute to the conversation, but there's a feeling that a fear inside of you that somebody will laugh at what you say, will ignore what you say, or they'll look at you like it's something silly. You don't feel confident, even though you may know these people very well. It may even be a work situation. You may even be senior to many of them. I've sat in meetings, and this has been over the years, where I've had young people who've just started in the area, and they've had some great comments in the meeting, and I've been thinking similar things, but been afraid to speak them, been afraid to say, yes, that's what I agree with, or this is how I feel. Simply that there was a fear inside of me that I'd be looked or ridiculed. And a lot of this comes from your early childhood trauma. So I guess let me go back a little bit with my lived experience to explain what I mean. So mine started at the age of 5 when, and now I know that this was wrong, but we were at a beach in Hunstanton. I grew up in the early years in the UK. And it was a wonderful day at the beach. It was warm, and Hunstanton Beach has sand. Many British beaches don't. They're pebbles, which is fine, but sand's much better. And anyway, we had this great day, and towards the end of the afternoon, there's this big boardwalk at Hunstanton Beach, and my parents were getting ice creams, and I was sitting at a shop. I walked past a shop, and in these days, and we're talking late. We're talking about early 60s. They had all these buckets outside with those little windmills that, colourful windmills stuck in them. They had plastic spoons and spades, and there was a bucket of little toy helicopters. And I sat down with them and took two out and was rolling them along the paved area. And then my parents called us to go, and I slipped them both in my pocket. And I know I stole them. And so in the car, I was playing with them, and my father saw through the rear vision mirror, saw me and pulled the car over, took me out of the car, undid his leather belt, and started chasing me through what was Sandringham Forest. That's where he pulled over, and whipping me with the belt. And now that was the first instance, and of course that wasn't the only instance during my life. But what it did do is set up a fear in me as a child. What should have happened is that he should have taken me back to the shop, made me hand them back, paid for them, not given them to me, and made me apologize. And so I learned a lesson. But the lesson I learned was that I had to now live in fear of him, because that's the sort of feeling that started to build in me. And once you have that fear, you then start to build a different reality. And that reality, this is where it then lasts until you, in adult life, it then impacts those, because a lot of your decision making is made as that, say, 5-year-old child, or whatever the child age may be. So some of the things that you might that was only one of incident. There were others that he did, that physical abuse on me, and they just reinforced. Imagine it something like, if you're hammering a nail into a piece of wood. You strike it once, may not go all the way in. You strike it again, it may not go all the way in. You strike it again, and it may start to go close to all the way in, and then you hit it again. What I'm saying is that the trauma is, when repeated, it builds and pushes it in deeper into you, and creates a greater sense of a whole range of things can happen, but certainly a sense of fear and a sense of an alternative reality. So let me, as an adult, you can't hide from it. Eventually, the traumas will come out. So that's why I like to talk about it to men, even in their 20s and 30s, because if they can heal, and once I started to understand it and started to find work with somebody else to help me heal, my life improved greatly. Now, it hasn't all gone, and I still have moments when it really raises its ugly head, but it has changed my life completely in terms of being able to cope. And that's possibly the thing that you can achieve, is that you can manage and cope with the things that are not pleasant, the emotions, the repressed emotions that come up. So let me tell you about some of the things, and you may recognize these. For example, in relationships, do you keep your distance? Or when you're in a new relationship, it's great for the first month, maybe a bit longer, maybe 6 months. And then you find little things that you pick at. And until you get an argument, and then the person's no good anymore for you, and you leave them. Have you seen that as a constant pattern? Um, do you have trouble controlling your temper? Do you explode in moments and then feel shame and remorse afterwards, but you can't control that anger from just coming out of you? Low self-esteem, of course, is one of the things that many kids or many adults who've had childhood abuse will suffer from. Do you use things like jokes and sarcasm, even when you're being praised, or to deflect from you? As I mentioned before, do you change how you are in social groups so that you can feel like you can contribute, or be part of? I remember in the 80s when I was living in Sydney. And in that time, I had quite a few gay friends, and they would go to a lot of the gay clubs, and they would invite me along. And I remember I would always try and dress like they did, and I was wearing things like, I think they were called balloon pants, and I even bought a pair of pink long pants with a tie up. And these things made me feel like I belonged to them, so that I didn't stand out. And it was always, and then, if I went somewhere else, it would be a different outfit that made me feel like this is how these people dress, this is how I must dress. I didn't have an identity of my own. I was trying to find a way to fit in with them. So all of these things you may recognize, some of these things you may recognize, none of them. And you may have had a great childhood where none of this has an impact on you. And if that's the case, then you should thank your parents, because That is the ideal, where you grow up loved, you have your boundaries, you understand relationships. All of these things are given to you by your parents, and you have therefore a good adult life, and you can have good relationships, because that's really, it's about the love. If you don't have love as a child, if you're alone, feel abandoned, then you know you cannot find love as an adult, because you don't know what love is. One of the things that I remember in my childhood, and it never seemed odd to me until I started reflecting back, I thought it was just the things I liked. But I would spend, and this is in the UK, and when we lived in Africa as well as a child, my family moved to Africa. I would spend time in the fields in winter. I loved the snow-covered fields and the crackle of the grass underneath my feet when it was frozen. And in summer, I played in the forests and loved jumping through over old logs. And I can remember running all on my own. And I always played games of being the hero. And I thought this was just me, and that's fine. But now I realize, of course, that I was just safer out of my home, and that's what I was seeking. So you know, all of these things happen, but one of the things that can happen as well as an adult, and I guess we are all aware of this, is that you can be drawn to somebody who is like the situation that you've left. And this happened to me on a few occasions. But one, the first job that I had, I left home at 13 and school. The first job that I got was working as an odd job person in a auto electricians. And the man who gave me the job, I'd seen him around in parties and things. It wasn't a formal interview or anything like that. And he just said, oh, he needed somebody and I told him I was looking for work. And he used to enjoy taking me into the back storeroom, and he'd whip me with little thin strips of metal. Um, and so the experience from my father beating me and once whipped me with a wet towel and other things to this man, it's like I attracted, or they saw in me something that they could use to fulfill their own need. I'm guessing here. I don't know exactly how that works, but of course, we all know that we can attract the same people over and over again if we don't change. Now, let's talk about healing. It's not difficult to connect with your inner child, and we'll go through a quick exercise in a moment to show you how. But it's important that once you start working on your inner child, you will find that you get relief very quickly. It does take a little while to start, because you need to go back and reparent where the traumas happened. In other words, you need to really feel where these events occurred, and that's painful, and it will hurt, and you will cry and some scream, sob, whatever. So you need to do it with a qualified person, and you need to be supported all the way through it. But you can do it, and there is success when you do it, and it comes quite quickly. Once you get to your child, your inner child, and start repairing them, you'll be surprised how quickly some of these things will come out. They will hurt, they will be traumatic, but you will start to improve, and you'll feel yourself, a weight does lift from you. It's like a physical sensation can be released. So let's do a little thing to begin with, just to connect with your inner child. This is not, I don't want you to go back and think about any traumas or any memories like that. I just want you to say hello to your inner child. That's all I want you to do. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes for a moment and just take a couple of deep breaths. And then I want you to go inside and go and say hello to your little boy or little girl. Take your time, they may not appear immediately, but if you can, go down and say you'd like to say hello to them. And when you see them, just smile, because they will be anxious. Remember, this is an identity that is actually different to you. You've created an alternative reality. So this inner child is what you could be uniquely once you heal the inner child. This is who you are meant to be. As your child relaxes, smile at them. see them. And then I want you to slowly walk towards them. And just go slowly and smile. And tell the inner child, tell your child that you love them and that you are here for them now forever. And you'll always take care of them as you approach. And when you're close to your inner child, when they're ready, I want you to put your arms around them and hug them. Just hold them for a few moments. Just feel your warmth and your love going into your inner child. Then all you have to do is step back and say to your inner child that you'd like to put a cloak around them. It's a bright blue cloak. You put that around their shoulders and say, this is for you. This will protect you from now on, and I'll always be here. And then step back, wave goodbye, and say, I'll be back, and I'm always here for you. And then just take a moment, come back into wherever you are, take a deep breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth, and open your eyes. And what you should do if you found your inner child, if you didn't, then try it again, and just say hello to them. You don't have to do anything else. The other thing you can do is you can place your right hand on your tummy, your left hand over your heart, and just for a few moments, even sitting in a chair, wherever you might be, obviously not driving or operating anything, just talk to your inner child. You don't have to even try and go inside to meet them. Just talk to them. And you'll be amazed how much the feeling will grow of the connection. And then I recommend that if you have had early childhood trauma, then please go and find a professional to help you work through that, and to talk to you about how they can help you overcome that inner child trauma. Your life, no matter what age you are, anything from 20 onwards, 15 onwards, really through to 80, 90, you might as well have the years you have left to be happy and fulfilled. My name's Graham Robinson. It's been great to chat to you. I know it's quite a heavy topic, but think about it as you reconnecting with somebody that you really love and that loves you. If you want to talk about it more, I'm at Real Experience Consulting. That's REALXPERIENCE Consulting, CONSULTING.com. You can reach out to me if you want. But take care of yourself, and I look forward to the next time that we